I'm told we're ready and we're live streaming. No me lo puedo creer. ¿Cómo estás? ¿Sabías que estabas aquí? Vale, vale.
With UNICEF Office of Research. We met before? Yes. We have. So we're here to hear.
All right. This is going to be a nice, cozy session.
Okay. There's a lot of people in the...
Sonia, there's room right here too.
I love your first poster.
All right. Shall we begin? Unfortunately, we don't have the room forever, although I think I could speak about this forever, but we can't do that. All right, this session is, I think I'll just give you a brief introduction as to how this is structured. I will speak first to give you an introduction as to what a Child Helpline does and what we do at Child Helpline International. And then I'll pass this along to John Carr and Clara Samarin, who are going to speak about specifically a project that Child Helpline International undertook earlier this year under the We Protect Aegis and under UNICEF's global program. So we also have participants coming in to present from Chicago, from National Runaway Safe Line in Chicago, and from New York Crisis Text Line, both of whom are members of Child Helpline International. So I will get started with this right away. Hang on. How do I even make this go? There we go. There we are. All right. I'm going to start with a very brief video to show you what a Child Helpline does. This is a video that was done by Childline and SPCC. And the sound. Forgive me.
El volumen. Sí, nomás necesitamos cerrar estas marcas porque no pueden salir
Vale, ¿es cierto?
Sí, sí, porque si no nos bajan el sonido. Y creo que el sonido ya está por...
Chris said his cousin had called them about bullying. He reckons talking to them really helps, plus it was completely free. But it's not like I could chat to him for myself, so how was I going to find out? I mean, who would I be talking to? What would happen? And would anyone else get to know about it? I didn't want the whole world knowing my business, least of all my mum. So I went on the Childline site again and found loads of information. Like I saw you can talk to Childline online as well as call them. It was bullying. He reckons talking to them really helps. Plus
Sounds like there's probably an echo between the two speakers, that they don't seem to be synchronized correctly. But we can come back to that. And what I will do is then go back to... A ver, esto no... Vale, por favor. Porque no está sincronizado bien en los altavoces, ¿no? Se nota.
Es que creo que es porque está prendido ese...
Ah.
reckon I can chat to anyone about anything. Well, almost anything. My mum says I could talk the hind leg off a donkey.
Okay.
I reckon I can chat to anyone about anything. Well, almost anything. My mum says I could talk the hind leg off a donkey, whatever that means. But I had this problem. I couldn't talk about it because I didn't think anyone I knew would understand. It just seemed to keep getting bigger and bigger in my head. So I thought I might speak to Childline. I'd heard you could talk to them about anything. My mate Chris said his cousin had called them about bullying. He reckons talking to them really helps, plus it was completely free. But it's not like I could chat to him for myself, so how was I going to find out? I mean, who would I be talking to? What would happen? And would anyone else get to know about it? I didn't want the whole world knowing my business, least of all my mum. So I went on the Childline site again and found loads of information. Like I saw that you can talk to Childline online, as well as call them. It works the same way as on the phone, it's just that you're typing instead of talking. Either way, I'd be in charge of what was said, and what would happen next. They weren't going to go passing it on, so I could trust them with as much or as little as I wanted to say, whatever I preferred. I could even give them a different name if it made it easier. I thought about chatting online, but I guess I find it easier to talk about stuff, so I decided to phone. I checked when I could call, and it said any time, so I just went for it. After I dialed the number, I felt really sick. I was thinking about hanging up, but I'd come this far, so what did I have to lose? Then someone answered. This man said, "Hi, you're through to Childline." "I've got this problem," I said. "I don't think anyone will understand." "Would you like to talk to someone about it?" he said. "Yeah," I said, "but I don't want my mum to find out." He said that was fine. The call would just be between me and the counsellor, unless they thought someone's life was in real danger. That was the only bit that might change things. That seemed fair enough. So he said he'd put me in a queue to talk to a counsellor. All I had to do was stay on the line for a bit. So I waited, and I was starting to feel, how can I do this? After a while, this woman, the counsellor, came on the line. I couldn't get my words out first. It's not like me. But she said, "Don't worry, take your time." So I told her all about it. She was great. She didn't talk too much to start off, she just let me say everything. Then she asked if it had been hard to call. "Yeah," I said, "but this has helped." I asked her, "So what do you reckon I should do?" She asked me if I had any ideas, so we started talking again. We figured out that I had some choices, and they could all work out in different ways. I could see there was something I could do to change stuff after all. That was amazing. Just doing that. All of a sudden it felt like I had a plan. It wasn't like I made an idiot of myself, and I hadn't blabbed to the entire world. The call wouldn't even appear on the phone bill. It felt like I was in charge and that I could really trust them. They just listened and helped me decide what I wanted to do. It felt great.
So you see that is what Childline UK does. And that is the principle of what a child helpline does. A child helpline is there to help kids help themselves, to empower them, to find a way to act, to find a way together, a path forward.
Hi, I'm Cora.
And I'm Amy from the Runaway Helpline.
And today we're talking about running away.
Am I? I don't know you.
It's a multi.
That was probably one of the audio.
So there are lots of different reasons that young people might run away. Can you tell us a few of them?
There could be things happening at home. There could be something that's more of a pull factor. Maybe you running away too.
So, just as an indicator of some of the Child Helpline International has 180 members in 140 countries around the world. Childline UK is, of course, one of our most important members, but the data are very interesting in terms of the numbers of contacts that are received around the world by child helplines. I've only got, the slide only shows here what the contacts via SMS are and via chat, partly because that's growing so much. However, that being said, the greatest number of contacts received by child helplines around the world are by the telephone. So 2015, contacts that were answered altogether, including chat, SMS, email, regular mail, and walk-ins, were almost 20 million, so 19,500,000. And what we call responded to contacts, in other words, where there was a case, where there was a conversation of meaning apart from asking for information or even hang-ups or pranks, was about 3,600,000. So it's a lot of kids who are being, a lot of children, young people who are being counseled by child helplines around the world. As I was saying earlier, the growth in method of contact is growing in terms of online contacts. And I think that that is simply the beginning. It started a number of years ago, but it is really growing almost exponentially. And I believe that that will continue. So Child Helpline International, this is our belief statement, that every child has a voice. When their voices are heard, children are empowered to participate in society and fulfill their potential. And we believe that no child should be left unheard. So what do we do at Child Helpline International? We make sure the world listens. We do a lot of advocacy work, a lot of reporting based on the data that we collect from our member helplines. We do thematic reports as well. You can see one there on sexual and reproductive health rights that we did late last year. And we do every year a Voices of Children publication and a Violence Against Children publication, trying to highlight some of the reasons why children and young people are calling helplines. And apart from making the world listen or asking the world to listen to us, we listen to the listeners and help them to help each other. So we do a lot of capacity building, a lot of peer exchanges, a lot of meetings amongst helplines. We forge partnerships, which is one of our most important elements of the way we work. And we are extremely grateful, of course, to our member helplines, because without them, we wouldn't be a network, obviously. But that's our value add, particularly for our members, tends to be in this part of the equation. So here are some of the partners we work with. Some of you are in the room. I'm very happy to say UNICEF is an extremely important partner. You'll be hearing more about that in this program that we put together earlier this year. We work with private sector entities like Facebook and Telenor, with GSMA. We work in terms of training with LSE, CEOP, and InHope. There are a lot more than that, I've got to say. So we just wanted to highlight some of the, for us, more important partnerships that we have. And I thought, since most of this session today isn't just about Child Helpline, but it's about, as well, child online protection, and it's about the We Protect program, that I would show you this next video, which is one we just launched in Bangkok at our big international consultation last month. And it highlights some of the risks that young people are facing today in their online.
2006 Run. Thank you so much for coming in today and talking to us, and thank you to Runaway Helplines. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
1006 Run.
И сколько ты их видела в жизни?
Я люблю свою маму, свою сестру и свою собаку Стар. Желаем всего хорошего, счастья, любви, красоты.
Ты все видео загрузила на YouTube?
This year, 27. Snapchat.
What you got there?
Hot chocolate.
I reckon I can chat to anyone about anything. Almost anything. My mum says I could talk the hind leg of a donkey, whatever that means. But I had this problem.
And that's Star.
I couldn't work out how to get rid of
Like
it.
your mom.
It just seemed to keep getting bigger and bigger in my head. And I didn't know who I could talk to.
1,861.
There was Mum, of course. She's good at advice.
So what?
And
You
my
were
teachers
college?
too, some of them are okay.
High school.
And if I felt really stuck, or if it was an emergency, I knew I could even go to the police.
Who got you the
But for
butterfly?
now, I wanted to keep things to
mum.
myself, so I thought I might speak to Childline. I'd heard you could talk to them about anything. The only thing was I wasn't sure how I should talk to them. I mean, who would I be talking to? Well,
That's cute.
What is?
The way you bite your lip.
600 likes every night. Or Ricardo, Mr. Cover.
Vodka tonic or whiskey cola?
Whiskey cola. Wow, it's beautiful. But how did you get my address?
You look different today somehow. No, take the other one off.
A bit creepy. Can't do it, not here.
Tonight, we had a deal.
I was just at my friend's house. I turned my phone off, but I did text you before. I said to you.
Don't turn your phone off. I'd never ignore you like that. Oh, where's Daddy then? Send us a better pic this time. We're getting impatient. Closer? Closer. Tell me why I shouldn't send it around. That's not enough anymore, Maya. Send me another one. Send me another one. Who are you gonna call? What about Mom? No, I didn't think so.
Hi, you've reached the Child Helpline.
Sorry. So yes, that's it's a tough video to watch. It really is. But and you'll see from what John and Clara are going to tell you about the baseline work we did in 17 target countries, as well as in 9 other countries to look at best practices, that a lot of the contacts that are received about online abuse tend to be of this sort. So kids are calling about this kind of thing. They're calling about sextortion and grooming a lot, and obviously about cyberbullying, which really is the main reason why kids are calling child helplines. So I'm going to turn this over now to Clara and to John. Siguiente, gracias. Thank you. John Carr, as you know, is a world-renowned expert in everything, and of course is also, I think is a member of the executive board of the UK Council on Child Internet Safety, as well as an advisor to ECPAT and
Okay.
and also many other roles. So John,
Okay.
if you would
Yeah.
take this part along, then along
I
with
will.
Clara, please. Clara Summerin. Thank you.
Okie doke. That's me at Lord's Cricket Ground in England, where you have to wear silly hats. Does everybody understand about cricket? Actually, we probably haven't got time to explain it all now. So I'm just going to be facilitating this next bit. So, Clara, why don't you go first and give us UNICEF's... Can you click through?
Thank you. So yes, I'm Clara Sommerin. I'm the Child Protection Specialist at UNICEF Headquarters on Violence and Exploitation. And I managed a global program to build capacity to tackle online child sexual exploitation last year. And I wanted to situate a little bit this LEAP project within this program. And I think many of you actually participated in the panel on We Protect yesterday. But for those of you who did not, and who is not familiar with We Protect Global Alliance to End Online Child Sexual Exploitation and the We Protect Initiative, former Prime Minister David Cameron in the United Kingdom hosted the first We Protect Children Online Summit in London in 2014, and with the aim to really strengthen global efforts to combat online child sexual exploitation and building on the work of the Global Alliance Against Child Abuse Online. And at this summit, it was ministries of interior and justice, law enforcement agencies, technology companies, international NGOs and national NGOs, Interpol and Europol, but also UN agencies such as UNODC and UNICEF participated at this summit. And at this summit, governments, international organizations, and the technology companies signed up to statements of actions committing themselves to urgently end online child sexual exploitation. And last year in Abu Dhabi, a follow-up summit was held in November 2015, and there will be another summit next year, towards the end of next year. And in Abu Dhabi, the countries also signed up to what is called the We Protect Model National Response, and they signed up to have a coordinated national response at country level between the governments, private sector, NGOs, and also with support of UN agencies. And at this summit, the UK government also pledged £50 million to fund to end violence against children. And they committed £10 million in the first year through a bilateral agreement to UNICEF for us to set up this global program to build capacity to tackle online child sexual exploitation that we implemented with many of the partners here in the room today in 17 countries across 6 regions and with activities at global level. And why I want to mention this global program, because it's really the first ever multinational cross-regional effort to address online child sexual exploitation. And it has been quite instrumental in starting to translating these commitments at global level on the ground and simultaneously calling attention to the issue at global level. The slides. So the global program has been implemented in 17 countries in, here it says 5 regions, it should be 6 regions. That's okay. And one of the regions is Latin America and the Caribbean. We had 5 countries there. Those are the countries of the We Protect program that UNICEF implemented with partners, are the countries in yellow. We also had 4 countries in Africa, 2 countries in Middle East and Northern Africa, 3 countries in Eastern Europe, 1 country in South Asia, and 2 countries in Eastern and Southern, East Asia and the Pacific. Sorry, I'm stumbling here. So one of the main pillars of the work of the global program and also the We Protect Model National Response is to ensure that we should identify and rescue the child victims, but also ensure that they receive support services once they have been rescued and identified. And this was a key pillar of the global program, and that's where we started to work with child helplines on the ground. We worked with 9 helplines in the countries, and we also worked with Child Helpline International at global level to really also ensure that we have reporting mechanisms to which children can call and report these crimes, seek assistance, and be referred to services, because we know that this is an integral part of a child protection system at country level. So in addition to this, so what we did together with Child Helpline was that we decided that online child sexual exploitation is a relatively new issue in many of these 17 countries. And in many of these countries, the helplines might not be adequately addressing this issue, might not know how to address it, might not be familiar with it. So we decided that it would be a good idea to undertake a baseline assessment and kind of a needs assessment of the capacities of the helplines in the countries, in these 17 countries. And that's, I think, John will speak a little bit more about the findings of this baseline and needs assessment that was done through a survey and also through regional meetings. But in addition to these 17 countries, we also recognize that there are quite a lot of countries, these 9 countries that you see in blue here, you know, United States, Australia, United Kingdom, etc., that already have helplines in place that are addressing the issue of online child sexual exploitation. So also to bringing in the experience from these countries and looking at what are the best practice models. So here are the 9 countries. So it was Aruba, Australia, Canada, Egypt, New Zealand, Palestine, Poland, United Kingdom, and United States. And these were the helplines where they have already started to address the issue of online child sexual exploitation in different ways. And now I hand over to John to present on the recommendations.
So because I can see Professor Livingstone in the room and Yasmina, I'm just to reassure you that there will be a report published at some point in
There is a summary report
already.
And the full report
With the
will be
data.
ready. It will be ready very soon. We're just putting the final touches on the full report.
Yeah.
But we should also say already the regional reports are ready and they're also
Yes, they
available on.
Are they in the public domain?
They are.
Oh, they are. Okay. The regional ones are already. I'd forgotten that. But there is a summary report en route that will be available soon with all of the numbers. Now, obviously, I'm I'm from the United Kingdom, and even if you were not in any way involved with children's issues professionally, as I am, you would know about Childline. When they do these annual kind of market research things to test awareness of brands, okay, NSPCC and Childline is up there with Nike, Coca-Cola, and the BBC in terms of awareness on the part of the British public. You know, bus stops, everywhere you go, pretty much, you will see some kind of advertisement or placard telling you about Childline and giving you the telephone number, the free phone number. And all of our phone companies don't record the fact, GSMA is in the room as well, even the mobiles, don't record the fact that you've made a call to the helpline if that's what you do. So even if your parents saw the bill or saw the records of who'd been ringing who, they would never see that because that's something that the phone companies do. So, and I was very much involved with Childline at the beginning because there was a moment not that long ago when they didn't do any online stuff or they didn't deal with online cases. Today, and they published their annual reports. Online issues, sexting, online bullying, paedophile activity has become a very, very significant part of their daily workload. So for me, it was great to be involved with this project because for me it was very, very interesting to see how other child helplines were facing up to it. And all of them, I mean, the good news, all of them were aware of the fact that this was a growing issue, but for some of them, as we will see in a minute when I finally get round to doing what I was asked to do, for some of them at the moment, they acknowledge that their knowledge and understanding of this problem is very, very low, which is why it was great that UNICEF and the We Protect was able to embark upon this, because this is tomorrow. I mean, it's today for us in many of the richer countries, and it's tomorrow for everybody else, and it's great that we're all moving in that direction. So, yeah, some of the actual results. Oh, I can do it now, can I? Okay. Just point at this or to wherever. So, actually, I can't see that screen from over there, so go back one. Okay, so there we are. So there were 4 meetings. I think I went to 3 of them. I missed the Cairo one, but I went to the one in Paraguay, Nairobi, and yeah, I will have to stand over there because I can't really see the screen very well. It's my great age and antiquity and these lousy glasses. I went to the one in Paraguay, I went to the one in Nairobi, and I went to the one in London, where I live. Yes, that's the one I nearly forgot. And And there was a very impressive array of child helplines or people involved in online child protection at each of these meetings. The one I went to in London, there was Vietnam, there was Philippines.
Serbia, Montenegro.
Yeah, I mean, it was Albania. Yeah, it was. Yeah. The one in Kenya, not surprisingly, was mainly African groups, and the one in Paraguay was mainly Latin American groups. But there was a very broad spread of groups and organisations at different stages of development taking part in it. 22 countries. There's going to be the final report, as I explained to you, and there was a very strong involvement by Child Helplines, very impressive Youth Advisory Council. I think one of the Youth Advisory Council is going to be ringing in a second, yeah? So I'll better press on. So here we are. What can we see here? 21% of the helplines acknowledged that this was a high priority issue. And just over half said it was in the mid-priority range. And nearly a third said they don't yet have any concrete plans to make child online protection part of their, as it were, work programme in the near future. Although I think they were changing their minds at the end of the sessions, but that was the state of play at the point where we, as it were, intervened. I mean, I don't think it was true to say that everybody had some basic knowledge that this issue was, I mean, apart from the fact that they were at this seminar where that's what we were talking about, so just the fact that they were there meant that they had some knowledge of it. But I have to say, in some instances, that knowledge was extremely basic. And yet, as we've seen from those videos and from what I know from the UK, this is a really, really important bit of the child protection work. I am now absolutely convinced that just as every country in the world needs a hotline for reporting child abuse image material, every country in the world should have at least one major helpline which has got an online component to it because of the help that it can give to children, often in very, very desperate circumstances and with nobody else to speak to. It's a big deal to speak to anybody about these things when you're feeling so kind of worried and uncertain. To speak to the state or to your parents it just won't happen. And often it leads to tragic results, suicide, self-harm and all that kind of thing. So these helplines, I'm now a great evangelist for them, partly as a result of being involved in this work. There's no point in me just reading out what's up on the screen because I'm pretty sure everybody in the room is capable of reading. When are these people going to... Oh, I see, so they're waiting for me now. I'll tell you what, is the link to the report in this presentation? I can't remember. Okay, we will send you, we'll put the link up in a minute so you can see the more detailed report. If you want to see some of these findings. And I think I'll stop now and we've got two people who are ringing in or going to speak to us with videos. One from Chicago and one...
From New York. If I may, if you could continue just one more. Sorry, John. Okay. I'm just... generally, of course, most of the findings from the 17 countries where we did this project and looked at the baseline was primarily around capacity building for helplines. And the capacity building is both for counselor capacity building, it's obviously for CRM capacity building, making sure that the taxonomy and the terminology is correct. There was a lot of interesting feedback from the helplines about not understanding what some of these terms meant. When we did the survey, it was very interesting. We said, what is grooming? What is sexting? What does all this mean, and how do I translate that into my language? And I thought that was a very interesting finding so that people really did understand what kids were really calling about. Their counselors didn't know, and neither did the executives know. So there needs to be a lot of capacity building around terminology, of course, a lot of awareness raising. They gave us some interesting reasons as to why they think children don't call and young people don't call. because primarily it's so taboo that it's so shameful that they won't even speak to a confidential and anonymous source, an anonymous counselor about these kinds of things. So I think that that's another interesting finding. Just one second, Clara wants to say something as well.
I wanted to add something that in Nairobi, we had a discussion about streaming, online child sex abuse via streaming. And there was a group there that worked in, I can't remember the name of that gigantic shanty town that they have in Nairobi. It's the biggest in Africa. Anyway, they're very actively working with children in there. And they just stood up and said, in a very kind of innocent and straightforward way, oh yeah, that's happening, but it's not sex abuse because there isn't another person in the room. You're doing it by your own, on a camera, and you're getting money for it. So for them, they didn't think of it as being a problem of abuse because they simply saw this as an easy way that didn't involve actual physical contact with anybody. And, you know, so that shows you, again, the kind of sorts of things that this work was uncovering. And I'd never heard of, I mean, obviously I'd heard about cases in the Philippines and Cambodia and places like that, where, as far as I know, everybody knew immediately this was bad and wrong, but this was a very interesting kind of first take, an innocent take on it, coming out of Kenya.
Thank you, John. And Clara also wanted to mention something.
I mean, maybe just to add, I think one of the main findings of all the meetings and the main report is that also most helplines did not have specific protocols, right, to deal with the cases of online child sexual exploitation and abuse. They have protocols for dealing with violence, sexual abuse and exploitation, but they really did not know very well how to deal with these cases. And I think that was one of the main findings, and where, you know, we all need to work together on helping the helplines to develop these protocols. And I think it was so clear, as you said, it's really about capacity building. It's about counseling, case management, victim identification, but also data capturing and the data collection. I think that came out very strongly as well from the report.
It did, and this is the other part of, around capacity building isn't just the training of counselors and getting the terminology correct. It's also building up their referral networks in their countries, and that's a very hard thing to do sometimes, as we know. We're talking about some countries where police simply can't be trusted, or where they're, for example, they don't have a reporting mechanism for child sexual abuse imagery, for example. They do have, but they put everything under a cyber crime tip line. So that means that also the people who are receiving those calls on the other end, be they police or be the Interior Ministry, aren't trained either to receive these calls and to do something about them. Some of the legislation is really very antiquated and not up to date. So the purpose of these studies that we did was not just the child helpline, but how do they work within their national context, and does it work or not? So the findings, I think, are very interesting on an individual basis. The full report has individual country profiles as well. I have to say one thing as well, which I find, which I always say, there are some countries in this study that don't have a child helpline at all. So that's another area where I think we have a lot of work to do as well. So I encourage you to look at the report. I will send around the link. I'm so sorry, I need to kind of keep this going because we're sort of late. And what I'd like to do is call in Gordon Vance from the National Runaway Safe Line in Chicago. Gordon is the Director of Programs for the National Runaway Safe Line, and he's been with them for a long time. He is he is extremely well versed in a lot of these problems, and he's going to, I think, be talking about the issue of a child or a young person being lured to run away, lured into being trafficked through internet connections, in other words, mainly through social media. So Gordon, if you're there. you have your, Gordon, Gordon, can you hear us? Can you hear us, Gordon? Maybe not. You need to turn your microphone on. Hang on. I'll just send him an email, I think. Or a text. Gordon, can you hear us? Yeah. Is your microphone on? ¿Está hablando? Can you please speak? Just say something. Gordon, can you say something, please, so we see if we can hear you? Es que no me escucha. Ahora está hablando, ¿eh? He's talking and we can't hear it.
When you're getting connected, can we have some comments and questions?
Sure, absolutely. We're just going to take advantage, and poor Gordon is talking and we can't hear him. But yes, of course, Jasmina. Wait a minute. Did you text him?
It's only the summary. Sheila, I think you have another question down there.
Hello, my name is João Pedro. I'd like to ask, there's helplines in Europe, work alongside InSafe. I'm a youth ambassador. Why aren't these helplines included in the We Protect project? Even as a case study, or perhaps you could explain that?
For safer internet, you're talking about safer internet?
Yeah.
Well, my understanding is, first of all, safer internet is primarily Europe. So most of the target countries are not part of the safer internet network. We did use some of, I believe, as best practices, those who are also members of the Safer Internet program, for example, Poland, which is Empowering Children Foundation. So yes, they were involved as best practice, but because the target countries are not part of the InSafe network, then no. And InHope is hotlines, not helplines. Yeah, Jasmina.
Thank you so much. This is wonderful work that helplines do, and I just wanted to mention that in our research that Sonia and I did with, under Global Kids Online, we didn't do that many countries, but some of those countries are also members here, and were included in your work as well. We found that when children encounter something online that bothers them, they mostly talk to their peers, then to their parents, then maybe between 2 to 9% to teachers, and even fewer to professionals. So obviously there's a need for an outreach so that children speak more to available professionals and helpline, given that few of them would consider that. But also my question was, do you have peer services, peer-to-peer support services through these helplines, because children may feel more at ease talking to somebody of their own age who can, in a way, help them if it's at all possible. Yeah.
Indeed, that's a really good question, and there are helplines that do have that. Childline UK does. The Dutch Kindertelefoon does as well. Those are the two that I know of specifically, and I know, for example, Gordon has, unfortunately we can't hear him right now, but he's got with him a young person who is also a counselor. So they, in the National Runaway Safe Line, they have people who are under 18, say about, I think beginning at about 16 is the youngest that people use. We would, as Child Helpline International, very much like to encourage that and to spread that practice to other helplines. It's more difficult in other cultures, I think. There's
even in the UK, where Childline is, even in the UK, where Childline is a massive organisation, it's like a Rolls-Royce organisation in some ways, I still think it's the case that kids will speak to each other first, very often, and Childline probably gets the harder and more difficult ones. So I still, even though it's outside the framework of helplines, there's still an awful lot of peer-to-peer stuff going on. And NSPCC does in any event, or Childline does in any, have that peer network as well.
The other element of this is that I worked at the Spanish helpline, and I know that from the Spanish helpline's perspective, the reason why children and young people know about helplines is from each other. So it's true, they do speak to one another, but very often they will also pass along that advice. If you need some help that I can't give you, call the helpline. So there is an element of passing along the word, from peer to peer. I'm just trying to see if we can get the chat.
5 minutes left. You would think he would realise that. Did you text him?
I didn't do that. I think I don't have one. Let's see if I can start.
I did it on Skype.
You did. I really do apologize for this. Let's see. Pero la voz, and they think that we've heard everything they said, and they're just waiting for us to react, and of course we're not. Okay, what I can do, I did, in fact, necesito, no entero, mirarlo, simplemente mirar el archivo. A ver. No es convenient. Aquí, ese, ¿me lo puede abrir? Okay.
It could be what they did earlier to solve the sound problem. They turned it off or something. Can you say that in Spanish?
Yeah. Do you want to keep?
Okay, so if there are any, we're still going to, we've got about 3 minutes left, and Gordon, even for 2 minutes, is worth listening to. So let's see if we can resolve this. Pritam, yeah, Pritam. Go on, yeah. Name and number.
Sure. Number, sure. Credit card number, yeah. Hi, I'm Pritam Malur from the ITU. I apologize for being late here. I know many of the people in the room. I can count them as friends. Yeah. So I was in another session, so I just couldn't come. And maybe this was already brought up, but let me just reiterate. Earlier this year, ITU and CHI had launched this campaign on partnering to protect children and youth. Primarily to recognize good practices on collaboration among regulators, operators, child helplines. And we thank CHI for their collaboration, their friendship, their strong support. And just a couple of words on what we did. We received case studies from many different parts of the world over several months. And these were evaluated based on various criteria. And I think there are people in the room who are judges or the organizations who participated in it. And this culminated finally in a session in ITU Telecom World, jointly organized with CHI, where we recognize some of these cases. And the criteria we used were efforts in improving access to child helplines, improving the quality of service, awareness raising at the national level. So it was a very interesting session, and we hope we'll do it again. We repeat the exercise in the future. Thank you very much.
Any other questions or comments about helplines? Go on, I can see there's something there hovering. Spit it out.
Hello, I am Marcela Charny from Argentina and NGO Chicos.net. And we were called by Facebook. I don't know if there is somebody here from Facebook. No. Hi. To help them to organize the protocol, you say, to help the child helpline in Argentina in internet child issues. I would like to know if there is another country in Latin America that is already doing that, and if there is some examples we can get them to help to learn more and to help the child help.
May I just take this initially? Thank you. I didn't know you were from Facebook. I'm so glad you're here. Facebook and Child Helpline International got together actually as a result of the LEAP project and put together a training for African child helplines. This was all done last year for the counselors on the privacy settings, on when kids call about Facebook and what can I do, that the counselors actually know what to do with Facebook. And now, as a result of the work that Child Helpline International has done with UNICEF in Argentina, for the National Child Helpline in Argentina, and with Facebook, I believe Facebook is going to try and repeat this in a large part of the continent. Please, you have a mic right there. Thank you.
Sorry. Thank you so much. And this is exactly where, we reached out to you from, because we were doing this work with Child Helpline internationally, and there was a request that we try and replicate the model in Argentina as well. I think we've seen a lot of success in us being able to work with the people who are taking the calls to, orient them with our safety tools, our safety features, privacy features, and also how people can report content. So we found that very useful as well, and we'd love to be able to try and do that in many more countries around the world.
That's a very good question. Thank you. And it is something that we are coordinating with Facebook as we speak. That we are coordinating with Facebook now.
Yes, I know.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Any other questions?
And
we are now at time.
We are at a time, and I have to apologize to the people who are participating at a distance. Ilana Jacobs from Crisis Text Line in New York, and Gordon Vance from National Runaway Safe Line. I'm so sorry that we couldn't bring you in. But thank you to all of you for paying attention and for being here today. Take a bookmark.